Okay, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for our third annual Health, Education, and Alzheimer's Disease Talks, also known as HEAD Talks. I am Jackie Seth, the Physical and Mental Health Committee Chair of the Columbia Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We have a fantastic event planned in partnership with two phenomenal chapters within Maryland, Annapolis and Fort Washington alumni chapters. Today, we will be sharing information about Alzheimer's disease in a TED Talk type fashion in collaboration with Can Dream Foundation, Johns Hopkins Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, AARP Global Council on Brain Health, Live Now Fitness, Shabbat Yoga Studio, and our sponsor, Own Real Estate. We're so happy to have you here. Let's talk a little bit about why we're here today. If you're not already familiar, November is Alzheimer's Awareness Month. That is why I'm wearing my nice purple shirt. Alzheimer's is a umbrella term, or is dementia's an umbrella term, of Alzheimer's disease. We often talk about Alzheimer's disease when we're using that term because it accounts for 60 to 80% of the impacted cases of dementia. More than 6 million people are living with Alzheimer's disease today. And during COVID, we saw an increase of about 16% in the cases of dementia. And through our discussion today, we hope that we can talk about Alzheimer's disease and help you understand that Alzheimer's disease is a link to brain health, and we want to improve that. We'll get physical and do an activity with our coach. We'll talk COVID-19 and brain health, and share ways to reduce your risk of Alzheimer's disease through physical exercise, yoga, and meditation. So let's meet our experts. We have Corinne Pettigrew with Johns Hopkins Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, Coach Gert with the Health Coach and Live Now Fitness, Sarah Locke with AARP Policy, Research, and International Affairs, and Courtney Brown, founder and owner of Shabbat Yoga Studios. I'm going to turn it over to Cassie to share a little bit of housekeeping information with you before we get started.
Hi, I'm Cassie. I'll be the moderator today. I just have a couple instructions to help with our Q&A session. We will have a Q&A session after each presentation. If you have questions, you can type them in the chat box and we'll go through and read these questions during the Q&A session after each presentation. Or if you would like, you can use the raise your hand feature in the Zoom during the Q&A session, and we will call on you. You can unmute your microphone and ask your question that way. The raise your hand feature is found under the reactions button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, which is shown on this screen that Jackie is showing. I will now pass it back to Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie. All right, so let's introduce our first expert. Corinne Pettigrew is an assistant professor in the Department of Neurology in the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. She leads the outreach and recruitment and engagement core of the Johns Hopkins Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. Her research focuses on risk and protective factors that may influence vulnerability to cognitive decline and the development of clinical symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. Welcome, Corinne Pettigrew.
Thank you, Jackie, and welcome everyone. So happy to be here kicking off this year's third annual HEAD Talks. So my name is Corinne Pettigrew, as Jackie mentioned, and today I'm going to be talking about the connection between memory loss and brain health. So this is your brain, not really your brain, of course, just a cartoon, but our brains weigh about 3 pounds, only about 2% of our body weight. But despite this, it's the most complex organ with an estimated 86 billion nerve cells, or what we call neurons, and 1 quadrillion or 1,000 trillion connections between those nerve cells. The brain consumes 20% of the body's total energy. And of course, as you might imagine, it depends on the integrity and health of the neurons. And it also depends on getting an adequate supply of oxygen and nutrients through a dense network of blood vessels. So this will become relevant when we talk a little bit more about brain health in a moment. Of course, the health of our brain is critical for almost everything we do. Our ability to think, learn, and remember, our ability to initiate and control movement, including balance, our ability to interpret and respond to emotions, including the psychological well-being, and our ability to sense, understand, and mentally organize the physical world. And there's good news and bad news. The brain is constantly changing, so this can absolutely be a good thing. So when we talk about brain health, we'll see how this is a good thing because our brain constantly changes with learning, activities, and engagement. But the brain is also affected by stressors. So these stressors can include age-related changes. They can include injuries, stresses such as stroke or traumatic brain injury, mood disorders such as depression, substance abuse, or addiction. And the brain can also be affected by diseases that cause dementia, such as Alzheimer's. So before we jump into brain health, I'm going to want to first talk a little bit about dementia. So as Jackie mentioned, we can think of dementia as an umbrella term. And if you wanted a definition of dementia, you can think of it as a general term for the gradual loss of memory or other mental abilities that's severe enough to interfere with daily functioning and everyday activities. So you can think of dementia as a broad category of brain diseases. I want to emphasize the comment about this being a brain disease, because dementias are caused by progressive disease-related damage to brain cells. So looking at the umbrella cartoon on the right, you can see that there's many different types of dementia. Alzheimer's disease, as Jackie mentioned, it's one of the most common types of dementia, along with vascular dementia. But there's also Parkinson's disease dementia, frontal temporal dementia, Lewy body dementia, AIDS dementia, among others. So if you remember nothing else from today's presentation, I'd like you to remember that dementia is different from normal aging. So you can see in this figure here that those experiencing normal aging tend to have slight cognitive changes as they get older. But with dementia, there's a long clinical trajectory and much greater cognitive decline. So let's really quick look at a few examples comparing changes in thinking abilities in normal aging versus dementia. Individuals who are normally kind of along that healthy aging spectrum might have difficulty multitasking. They might need to focus on one task at a time, but they can successfully complete their task, the task at hand. In contrast, someone with dementia might have increased difficulty concentrating and multitasking. In normal aging, we tend to be able to keep up with conversations, but this becomes in normal aging, you might be typically able to keep up with conversations, might have trouble finding a word here and there, but able to keep up with and contribute to conversations. But this becomes progressively more difficult for individuals with dementia. And as another example, in normal aging, our judgment and insight remain intact, but individuals with dementia often show poor judgment and increased risk-taking, particularly when it comes to things such as finances. So I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Alzheimer's disease because, as we've mentioned, it's one of the most common types of dementia. So Alzheimer's disease is characterized by specific changes to the brain. You can see these in the cartoon on the left. So this includes the abnormal accumulation of beta amyloid plaques that accumulate outside of our neuron or outside of our brain cells. And it includes tau tangles, which occur inside of the brain's nerve cells. And what happens is that these two pathologies, amyloid plaques and tau tangles, disrupt the ability of neurons to communicate with each other and eventually lead to neuronal injury or neuronal loss, which we refer to as atrophy. And it's this atrophy that's most tightly linked to the clinical symptoms of dementia. So you can see a cartoon here of atrophy with the healthy brain shown on the left in the middle and a brain of an individual with advanced Alzheimer's shown on the right. You can see a fair amount of injury to the brain's nerve cells. So as you might know, by 2050, we're expected to see considerable growth of the US population of age 65 and older. And because age is one of the largest risk factors for dementia, we're expected to see a corresponding increase in the number of individuals living with Alzheimer's disease over the next few decades, as shown by this graph. Now, the bad news is we currently have no cure for Alzheimer's disease. We have some medications that treat Alzheimer's disease symptoms in most patients, but we don't have any treatments that both modify the disease and impact disease progression. But it's estimated, or it's thought, that if we can find a treatment that delays dementia by 5 years, we can have a huge impact on the number of individuals affected by dementia over the next few decades, as shown by the dashed line in this figure. So related to this, and in the context of not having a cure, research is converging on the idea that modifiable lifestyle factors have a positive impact on brain health. And what this means is that maintaining and improving brain health may help us reduce our risk of dementia and age-related cognitive decline. And what's becoming increasingly clear is that brain health is affected by our lifestyle choices. So in the interest of time, I'm only going to say a few words about each of these kind of lifestyle factors that are shown on the right, but let's go ahead and dive right in. So the first thing we can do to protect our brain is monitoring our heart health. You've heard the age-old adage, what's good for your heart is good for your brain. And this is because what's good for your heart helps protect blood flow to the brain and protects those blood vessels in the brains. And one of the easiest ways you can protect your brain's blood flow and blood vessels is by managing treatable conditions such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, and obesity. And as I'm sure you know, these can be typically controlled through heart-healthy lifestyles, nutrition and physical activity, or medication. The second aspect of protecting our brain is physical exercise, or being physically active. So I'm not going to talk too much about purposeful exercise of moderate to vigorous exertion because Coach will jump into that in a little bit. But I do want to mention that being physically active can also be a mindset or an attitude of living an active lifestyle, an attitude that in which you encourage yourself to incorporate movement in day-to-day activities. This may mean choosing to walk to the library or store as opposed to drive, or taking those stairs when going to the second floor as opposed to the elevator. And also at living an active lifestyle can be engaging in hobbies and activities that you enjoy, things that kind of get you outside and moving. Another way we can protect our brain health is by engaging in cognitively stimulating activities. So we talked about the fact that the brain is dynamic and constantly changing, so we want to keep it active as we age. This means engaging in activities that challenge your ability to think and that require attention and focus. So for example, this might be learning new skills, new athletic skills, or a new game such as chess, learning a new language, new instrument, or volunteering in the community. So related to volunteering in the community, staying socially engaged is another thing we can do to help protect our brain health, because it helps combat loneliness and social isolation. So this might be doing purposeful activities with others, like volunteering, formally or informally. But importantly, it means maintaining meaningful social relationships and focusing on those relationships and activities that you enjoy the most, because those are going to be the ones that you're continually motivated to participate in. So you can do this by connecting with family, friends, and communities. Fifth, a heart-healthy diet. We can't underestimate the importance of this. Our dietary patterns and food choices have a big impact on brain health. And for me, I don't like to think that there's a single food that's key, but that's it. It's about the choices you make and doing things in moderation, enjoying that donut once in a while because it tastes good. In terms of healthy eating tips, it's generally suggested that we consume less sugar, less salt, and solid fat, and control those portion sizes. It's important to make fruits, vegetables, and whole grains a major part of your diet, and choose lean meats, fish, and poultry, and low or non-fat dairy. And of course, drinking adequate fluids, especially water, for staying hydrated. Lastly, sleep and stress management. So we talked about the fact that the brain consumes 20% of the body's energy despite its small size. It needs rest. So this means getting quality sleep, because sleep allows for our body to repair itself. It allows for new learning to occur, and it's therefore essential to our physical health and well-being. And I think we all know that when we don't get enough sleep, it affects our ability to pay attention and learn new information. Also, stress management. So I'm not going to talk about this too much because Courtney will get into some stress management techniques a little bit later, but do things that help reduce your stress levels. So related to sleep, you can see a chart on the right that shows estimates for about how many hours of sleep we should get throughout our life course. And although the number of hours we should get per night decreases as we get older, older adults should still be getting between 7 and 9 hours of sleep each evening. So you might be asking yourself at this point, how do lifestyle factors impact brain health? And that's a great question. More research is needed to understand this important question, but it seems that the various lifestyle factors impact brain health in a large number of different ways. So some of these help maintain good blood flow to the brain and protect the blood vessels, such as physical activity. Some of these lifestyle factors help encourage the development of new brain cells. Again, the brain is constantly changing. Or they help strengthen the connections between brain cells, so the highways that connect one part of the brain to the other part of the brain. Most of these lifestyle factors can benefit memory and thinking abilities and have impacts on mood and stress, so through their impact on our brain's chemical messengers, which we call neurotransmitters. And then lastly, a lot of these brain health or lifestyle factors have general health benefits. So we know that being physically active helps reduce our risk of other conditions, such as high blood pressure. So in sum, a brain healthy lifestyle matters to healthy aging. It impacts overall health and wellness with age, and it's important for protecting your cognitive health and remaining active, and also for reducing your risk of memory loss and dementia. But more research is needed. So we need more research to understand how these lifestyle factors impact brain health. We need more research to improve our understanding of healthy aging and diseases that cause memory loss. We're finding ways of reducing risks for cognitive decline and memory disorders, and finding improved treatments for dementia. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention. I invite you to follow us on social media at Johns Hopkins Memory and Aging on Facebook or Twitter. Thank you so much.
We are moving right along, and we want to introduce our next head expert is Sarah Locke. Sarah is a vice president for policy in AARP's Policy, Research, and International Affairs, where she helps position AARP as a thought leader addressing the major issues facing older Americans. She leads AARP's policy initiative on brain health and care for people living with dementia, including serving as the executive director of the Global Council on Brain Health, an independent collaborative of scientists, doctors, and policy experts convened by AARP to provide trusted information on brain health. I introduce to you Sarah Locke. Sarah?
Jackie, thanks so much for that nice introduction. And I have to say, I'm super jazzed by Coach Gert's presentation. And so I've set an alarm for 15 minutes when my talk is up. And just in the spirit of setting an alarm, let's stand up at the end of this so that we're doing his suggestion. I'm excited to talk to you about COVID-19 and brain health because there are a lot of connections, and you may not think about COVID as being a issue for your brain, but it turns out that it really is. Now, we have been hit by the tragedy of COVID, and unfortunately, so many people around the world have been infected and unfortunately died. So you mentioned, of course, that I am with AARP, and I've been at AARP for 20, I have to date it from my youngest daughter. So it's going on 24 years. And you all may know that we are an advocacy group for people 50 and older. Well, COVID has really taken a hit for people who are older. But one of the things that I want to say is that AARP's mission is to empower people to choose how they live as they age. And you can see I'm a little schizoid today. I couldn't decide whether I wanted to show you my Global Council backdrop or my AARP backdrop. But after the exciting Coach Gert's presentation, I'm going to focus on the AARP backdrop to say we're all about helping you make your money, health, and happiness last as long as you do. And that's why joining with Head Talk and talking about Alzheimer's, dementia, and what we can do to reduce our risk is so important to me. And I'm thrilled to be with all of you ladies and this chapter. I have to say I live in and around Annapolis and looking forward to finding opportunities to meet all of you sometime in person. But it's pretty cool that we can gather together virtually. But COVID and because we've had to take public health measures, older people have been the ones who have the greatest risk of dying and have been hospitalized. And we do research all the time, and we found out that 95% of older people are concerned about it. But if you're talking about who should be most concerned, people living with dementia actually, and their caregivers have had, of all of the underlying conditions, that is the condition that has been most vulnerable. And in fact, under some study done of Medicare claims, we found of all the underlying conditions, those who are at greatest risk are those who have suffered cognitive decline and dementia. And a lot of times it's because it's felt that because of cognitive issues, they couldn't take the same precautions that other people did, as wearing masks and being careful with social distancing. And many people with cognitive issues end up living in long-term care facilities. And as we know, that has been an absolute tragedy. And so what we've learned from this, and hopefully there's always something good out of something tragic, is that this is going to take an all society approach to the pandemic to tackle it and how to deal with it. And we know that members in underserved communities have been disproportionately harmed. And it's not just the virus. Sadly, the virus is causing damage directly to people's brains, but it's indirect harms, such as social isolation, that are causing even more harms. Now, those are things that we can do something about. I'm actually not too worried about the people who are on this video call, because you have a community. The sorority and the connections that you have with each other are vitally important, because you're sharing good information. You're sharing information about where to get vaccines and how to take precautions. But this is going to talk to you about this presentation that Jackie and Johns Hopkins and everybody has put together. I'm going to talk to you about some things that you may not have thought about as much. So we're offering 10 recommendations based upon the current side of this science about how to avoid those harms. Jackie, if you could switch to the next. So she mentioned the Global Council. ARP formed the Global Council to bring people from all over the world, from different disciplines, to talk about how health and deal with lifestyle issues, because as we get older, we have lots of questions about how do these things really work. Now, Corinne talked a lot about them, and I was really super pleased by being able to listen to her presentation, because she hit all the highlights. But we lots of times get conflicting information. Are blueberries good for your brain health? What about taking supplements? So the Global Council was formed to bring people from all over to say, okay, we may not have a cure for dementia yet, but what is the current state of the science? If we can't wait until we get perfect information. We've got to move. We've got to make decisions and decide how we're going to live our lives right now so that we can do the best that we can. So the Global Council decided to take a look at COVID, because as we mentioned, the direct threats of the virus, such as loss of taste and smell, increased risk of stroke and blood vessels, headaches, extreme fatigue, brain fog, delirium. Actually, that is, we found that for older people coming into the hospital with some symptoms, they might not have the same loss of taste and smell that younger people do presenting to the hospital, but in fact, they're confused. There's a sudden change in the way that they're oriented to themselves. They're not themselves, and that delirious state is a big indication that COVID might be a problem, where if there's a sudden change in this behavior. So that's the direct threats of how the virus can impact the brain. But the indirect threats, we talked a little bit about social isolation, but these increased feelings of stress and anxiety, hearing this terrible news all the time. Unfortunately, people who we know and love dying or feeling affected or at risk for the disease has brought on lots of feeling of irritableness, anxiety, depression, sometimes even obsessive compulsive disorder. We want to be careful, but we can't drive ourselves insane with mask wearing and hand washing, right? So mental health and well-being has been at risk and is as big a threat to your brain health as the virus can be. So the other thing that we wanted to talk about, I mentioned at the beginning of this, that the Global Council said, look, it's an all of society approach, because it's not just who you happen to be exposed to. People of certain ages are more vulnerable. People who are of lower income have suffered at a greater rate than people with high incomes or the ability to work from home. If you're an essential worker and you're out there in the healthcare business, or you're delivering groceries, you don't have the luxury of staying in your home. You've got to get out there. Pre-existing conditions, I mentioned dementia already makes you more vulnerable, but things like cancer, if you're being treated for dementia or diabetes, other kinds of chronic and very common health conditions can put you at greater risk for suffering from the problems of COVID. But your daily habits and your health behaviors, are you taking care of yourself? Are you following Coach Gert's advice? Are you out there exercising every day? Are you trying to eat healthy? If you're following these best practices, you're going to be a lot less vulnerable to the virus and the negative consequences of social isolation and anxiety, because you're giving yourself a buffer, you're giving yourself some resilience. And then race and ethnicity, we found that there are tremendous differences. And I can tell this crowd that as African-American women, you have seen significant numbers of people in your community who have been faced with these issues. And so you know that this makes a big difference. Our Hispanic community has had numbers similarly high, but in other states, Maryland, we don't have so many Native Americans or Asian Pacific Islanders, but we found that those groups also face disproportionate impacts from the COVID virus. So I mentioned, and I'm going to kind of zip through this, Jackie, just that African Americans with dementia are 3 times as likely as those as Caucasians to become infected with COVID and have increased rates of hospitalization and death. And this is not limited to the United States. So in the United Kingdom, for example, we've seen that 1 in 4 deaths of COVID have been people living with dementia. And of the 14 chronic conditions, it's those who have dementia who have the greatest risk of dying from COVID. Many of you may be caregivers, and so you yourselves are under increased risk because you're worried about your loved one with dementia, but you need to take care of yourself. Now, how many times have you heard, you've been on an airplane and they say, put that mask on, because before you can help anybody else, you've got to help yourself. And when you're a caregiver, and I've been a caregiver for people with dementia, you're always thinking about that other person, always feeling I can do one more thing for that person. But if you don't stop and put a little love back into yourself by taking care of your body, by making sure you're getting sleep, that you're eating well, you're not going to be around for that person. So it's really important, although hard to do, to remember, put that mask on first for yourself, and then you can help everybody else. So interestingly enough, ARP put out a report with the Global Council on the risk of COVID and brain health. And at first, we thought that long COVID was a relatively rare phenomenon. That is, once you get the virus and you recover, that very few people had symptoms that lingered to much longer. But we're finding that up to 1/3 of people who are infected with COVID are reporting lingering neurological symptoms, whether that's loss of smell or that brain fog that people are talking about. And so it's a real thing. It's not in your head. And so, of course, avoiding the virus is absolutely critical to protect yourself from long COVID, but also giving yourself the space to recover and do all of these healthy lifestyle behaviors so that you give yourself a chance to recover. So what were the Global Council on Brain Health's recommendations for what you can do as we're all grappling with COVID? Number one, I would say way back when we didn't have such good information about the vaccine and we were writing this report, we said, consider getting the vaccine. And I can tell you at ARP have moved to saying, for heaven's sakes, get the vaccine. It has made a tremendous difference in community spread. And whatever you have heard about it, it has made a tremendous difference in the health of all of us. And you're much less likely to die, much less likely to have hospitalizations. And so I would scratch out that consider now and just say, get the vaccine if it's all possible. The other thing is to stimulate your brain. Using opportunities like this, like virtual trainings, to think about what you should be doing, very important. Corinne talked about some of those cognitively stimulating activities, and it may not be chess for you or playing the piano. It could be things like grabbing your buddy and going for a walk and just chatting and de-stressing a little bit by sharing how your day was. Don't push off medical appointments. I don't know about you, but I've seen some advertisements by medical systems that so many people in the Maryland area aren't getting their hearts checked, aren't working on getting their diabetes managed. You have greater risks from those common chronic health conditions than you would even from the virus. So if you are not taking care of your underlying health conditions, you're putting yourself at risk. And now that people are vaccinated in healthcare systems, the chances of you getting it are much lower than they are. If you're following the public health recommendations, it's safe to go into healthcare settings and get the healthcare you need. So let's not die of heart condition while we're trying to protect ourselves from COVID. Taking care of yourself and getting your regular checkups are incredibly important. Supporting your mental health. Paying attention to sudden signs of confusion. As I mentioned, like if you're suddenly confused or your loved one was perfectly fine yesterday and then bizarre changes in personality or depression, go ahead and get checked out to see if COVID might be a concern. So here, staying socially connected, maintaining a balanced diet, getting regular sleep, getting physical activity, all important for your brain health. So even if we weren't talking about COVID, we'd be talking about these issues. That's my reminder to stand up and to stop talking and whiz through the rest of this presentation. So Jackie, let's move on through. Dementia caregivers, we talked about how important it is to take care of yourself. We've got lots of good recommendations available on ARP's website. And we are just about, this is a sneak preview for all of you. We're next Wednesday, we're going to be publishing a report that gives you 100 different ideas about how you can connect during the holidays and colder weather. We may be going inside, but it's no excuse not to find new ways to connect, whether it's arts or activities. Moving forward, don't need to read all this. This is the research projects that we have for the world. And we're going to try to kick people's tushes so that they do it, so we can get the answers to these questions. Next slide, Jackie. Oh, Staying Sharp, check it out if you haven't. It's a way of incorporating these holistic recommendations into your life. Sometimes it can be hard to remember to do it. Staying Sharp is a great way to help remember it and give you suggestions every day about how to do this. So check out stayingsharp.org at ARP's website. And I can tell you that we found lots of interesting information about people and their habits during COVID. So we've moved to virtual to try to protect folks. Tons of resources. I know Jackie said she's going to share this with you all later, but you can find out what everybody else has been doing, whether they've been drinking more, eating more. This will let you know what everybody else is up to. Next slide. And conclusion. COVID has been terrible. It's highlighted health disparities and long-standing inequalities, but hopefully it's motivating us to change and do better. So thanks for the opportunity, and I'm going to shut up and answer questions. Oh, music, really good to get you moving and doing everything else. Talk to you later about that. Thanks.
All right, everyone, we have another opportunity to discuss something really important that goes in line with what we've been saying all day. We can talk now about the impacts of yoga and meditation. I want to introduce to you my soror from Fort Washington, Courtney Brown. Courtney is a Reiki master, and I may have mispronounced that, Courtney, so please correct me. Vibrational sound therapy certified practitioner and purpose coach. She's a creator of gospel yoga flow and vinyasa flow, geared to creating worship experience on the mat, the mind and the spirit as much as the body. A book editor, publisher by profession, she holds a BA and MA degree in English. She's also a wife and proud mother of 2 daughters. She's a Diamond Life member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, yay, and a member of the Black Yoga Teachers Alliance and International Association of Reiki Professionals. I introduce to you, Courtney.
Hello, everyone. I bring you greetings from the Fort Washington Alumni Chapter under the leadership of our soror Opal Snelling Moore, where I am one of the co-chairs of the Physical and Mental Health Committee. I'm gonna need you guys to send me some massive energy, right? Because I don't know if you can hear my voice sounds a little funky, right? So just send me some healing energy. I'm getting over a cold from a trip to Hawaii, but lucky me, right? So I'm really not suffering. So don't feel so bad for me. But yes, I'm here to talk to you today about how yoga and meditation can be tools to help you move through dealing with Alzheimer's, whether you are dealing with Alzheimer's yourself or you're a caregiver. Because as Sarah mentioned, you do have to put your mask on first, right? So as a caregiver, it's really difficult to be in a position where you're constantly pouring out, but never pouring in. Right? So it's really important that you make some time for that. So yoga and meditation are 2 things that you can do together, the caregiver with the Alzheimer's patient or the caregiver doing it separately. Corinne mentioned earlier that yes, managing stress is really important to brain health. Studies show that yoga and meditation are extremely beneficial to managing stress. I am trying to breathe right now and manage my own stress about how my voice sounds, but it's going to be okay. So what we're going to do though is move around a little bit. It's not going to be quite as vigorous as coach, right? But before we get ourselves into the meditative posture, we're just going to do some movement. Meditation is really, it can be challenging to go from being very active, right? You've been actively engaged in this webinar to sudden stillness, which is what meditation would require, right? So we're gonna do 10 minutes of yoga first to get our body moving and get our mind prepped for some meditation. And then I will take some questions if there's time. So I'm gonna borrow Sarah's methodology and set an alarm there so I don't go over time. I invite you to join me standing if that's comfortable for you. I am going to be using a chair today also to give you some tools, some yoga positions that you can do in your office if you find yourself tethered to your desk. I hope you're not, because the truth is, y'all, nobody's tethered to their desk, okay? I am someone who used to go to yoga, take my hour yoga practice when I was going into my office every day without fail. It was a schedule I had with myself. So don't be so tethered to your job that you can't leave, okay? So let's fix that. So we're gonna start from standing, and we're gonna stand with our feet hip joint distance apart. So we're not talking about the outer hip here. To find the inner hip joint, we're gonna take our 2 fists, put them down in between our feet. That is the distance of your inner hip joint, right? When we're standing with the feet hip joint distance apart, we're standing in proper alignment, meaning we have our hips directly above our knees and our shoulders directly above our hips. This stance right here, with your palms face forward and your fingers spread wide, it's called mountain pose. And it can be very, very stress reducing in and of itself, right? So just find mountain with me, if you will. We want to relax the shoulders down the back, just soften your shoulders, see how good that feels. Shrugging your shoulders up to your ears, and then rolling them back and down. Fingers are spread wide. Good. Now, Coach mentioned earlier Chi, and that got me really excited because I'm an energy person, y'all. So what we're gonna do to start our session is to cultivate some chi, which is life force energy. We're going to pull it up, and it's going to look like this. On the inhale, we're going to sweep our arms up overhead. I'm stepping back so you can see my arms are kind of in a V shape. Wiggle your fingers and maybe rock forward and back a few times on your toes and your heels, and just feel how connected you are to the ground, right? Feel how stable you are. Nice, good. Find stillness if you were rocking, and then we'll turn our palms away from each other. And as we exhale, we're going to fold forward. Let's put a generous bend in the knees, right? We want to be really kind to the body. So folding forward, generous bend in the knees. Maybe you're resting your belly on your thighs. I'll turn to the side so you can see what I'm doing here. And then with our next inhalation, we're going to turn our palms face up. So your palms are facing you. You're in this forward fold still. And as you inhale, you're going to start to come to standing with your palms still facing you. You're pulling up chi here. You're going to pull up that chi, positive energy, place it right over your heart. Yes. And as you exhale, you're going to press chi energy out into your space, into your home, wherever you might be resting right now. Yes. And as we exhale, we're going to pull that chi right back in towards ourselves. All right. Inhale, we're going to sweep our arms all the way up. Wiggle your fingers. Feel your energy lift when you do that. Maybe again, rock forward and backwards on your toes. And then finding stillness. As we exhale, we'll forward fold, turn the palms away, lead with your heart, forward fold. On the inhale, we'll turn those palms face up, and we're pulling up positive energy, everything we need, right? Peace, joy, stability. Pull it up towards your heart. And as you exhale, press it out into your space, into your home. Share with everybody around you. And then as you inhale, pull it back in towards the south. Yes, one more round. Inhale, sweep your hands up. Exhale, forward fold. Lead with your heart. Yes. Gather your chi and pull it up to your heart. Pull it up. Everything good. Pull up everything you need and press it right into your heart space. And as you exhale, press it out into your home, into your environment. And then as you inhale, pull it back in toward yourself. Yes, beautifully done. Let's bring the hands together at heart center. This position is called Anjali Mudra. We're going to roll the shoulders back. Just take 5 big stress reducing shoulder rolls back, right? That feels so good. Make sure you're breathing. And on the inhale, we'll change directions and roll them forward. 5 big circles. I know it feels good. Feels good to me, so I know it feels good to you. All right, good. Let's come back to standing with our hands right here in front of our heart. This position is called Samasthiti, equal standing pose. It's a great way to cultivate a sense of equanimity. So if you're feeling like, things are going kind of crazy right now in my life, and I need to feel some balance, this pose, Samasthiti, helps foster a sense of equanimity. All right, let's drop our palms by our sides, and we're going to come to face a chair. So hopefully at home you have a chair nearby. I just want to give you these options in case you can't get away from work, but we're going to work on that, right? Because if that's been your mindset, I just can't get away, we're going to work on that mindset, right? But for today, we're going to use the chair to help us. So we're going to stand facing our chair. If you don't have a folding chair, don't worry. If there's a chair that doesn't have arms, that's good. But if not, let's work with what we have. Don't let that be an impediment. All right. So on the inhale, we're going to sweep our hands all the way up, all the way up. And as we exhale, we're going to find our palms on the chair, resting on the seat of the chair. Then we're going to walk our feet back a bit until our hips are right above our knees. And once your hips are above your knees, you're going to press all of the weight back into your heels, like you're trying to press your glutes back to the wall behind you. And then you're just going to drop your head in between your arms, tuck your chin to your chest. Ooh, and breathe deeply. It's a nice deep stretch here for the hamstrings. You might feel it in your hip flexors. You might feel it in your glutes. Let's take one more deep breath in and exhale. And on the inhale, we'll lift our gaze, walk closer to your chair, just walk yourself forward. And on the inhale, we'll sweep our hands all the way back up, bring the palms to touch. And on the exhale, we'll bring it down to a grateful heart. Good. Now we're going to take a seat in our chair. So many things that you can do with the chair. And again, see, these are great poses. This is a great little workout for both the caregiver and the person who may be dealing with Alzheimer's. It's something that you can do together. On the inhale, we're going to sweep our arms up overhead. On the exhale, we're going to bring our hands to rest on our knees. So just resting your hands on your knees. Feel how good that feels. Maybe you feel a little heat coming from your palms and into your knees, right? Good. We're going to do a few rounds of seated cow-cat here. So how that's going to look, as we inhale, we're going to send our chest forward. We'll drop our head back so our chin goes up towards the ceiling. Feel a nice stretch in the front of your neck. And as you exhale, we'll curl chin to chest, draw the navel in towards the spine, and press your upper back towards the back of your chair. Inhale, let's come forward. Send your heart forward, drop your head back, your chin goes up towards the ceiling. Good, and as you exhale, curl it in, chin to chest. Feels so good, right? I hope. One more, inhale. And exhale. It's just warming up the spinal column. And on the inhale, we'll come right back to that comfortable seat. Good. Let's bring our hands to heart center in Anjali Mudra. The palms are touching. And as we exhale, we're going to float our elbows up to shoulder height. Now, the heel of your hand, the bottom part of your hand might separate, and that's okay, don't worry about it. But try to keep your palms together as much as you can to limit the separation. Good. Take a very deep breath in. And as we exhale, we're going to twist to the right. So leading with your right elbow, right, we're twisting all the way over to the right. The left elbow is going to be forward and the right elbow is towards the back of your room. Good. And on the inhale, we'll come right back to center. Nice, easy movements. Good. Do a little check again and make sure your elbows haven't drifted down a bit. Just bring them back up to shoulder height. Deep breath in. And as we exhale, we twist to the left, leading with that left elbow. That right elbow is going to be in front now. And you can turn your gaze over your left shoulder, just looking towards your left. Inhale, we'll come right back to center. We'll take one more round of that. Exhale, twist to the right. Inhale, come back to center. Good. Exhale, twist to the left. Inhale, come back to center. Good. This time on the inhale, we're going to sweep our arms up overhead. Wiggle your fingers. Every time your hands lift, your heart lifts, energy lifts, right? Relax your shoulders down your back. Just roll them back and down. Keep breathing. And we're going to heel toe our feet out a little wider than our chair. So we want a nice wide stance here. We're in our chair, but we've heel toed the feet out of it. Good. And on the exhale, we're just going to fold forward. Lead with your heart. Bring your palms all the way down to the floor. Good. Your right hand is going to stay down on the floor. And as you inhale, you're going to sweep that left arm up and over. Yes. Take your gaze to your left thumb and breathe. Good. Next exhale, that left hand comes down. And on the inhale, that right arm sweeps up and over. Y'all look really good. Yes. Breathe. Yes, one more. Exhale, right hand comes down. Inhale, left arm lifts. Yes. Exhale, left arm comes down. And on the inhale, the right arm lifts. Beautiful. On the exhale, both hands are down. We're going to tuck our chin to our chest. And we're going to roll up super slow. So roll up as slow as you can. And as you're rolling up, just let all the stress, any tension, whatever, literally roll off your back. Yes, and just lift your gaze when you arrive. Bring your hands back to your knees and we'll heel toe ourselves back in until our feet are hip joint distance apart. Good. So a little movement, right? Just to get the mind ready to sit in meditation. The thing about meditation is that comfort is necessary. In fact, comfort is required. Because if you're not comfortable in your seat, it's going to be really hard for you to be with what is. So I have a pillow here. You can stay in the chair if that's comfortable for you. But you want to find a very comfortable seat for your meditation. And once you decide, I'm going to stay in the chair, or I'm going to sit on the pillow, or maybe you want to lay down, that's fine too, whatever feels best for you, right? But you can put your pillow, as you see that I've done, right up against the wall. So there's no reason for you to sit like ramrod straight, because that's not going to make you comfortable at all, right? The key is comfort. So take a moment and find a comfortable position, because I'm going to disavow you of another meditation myth you've probably heard of. Like, you have to sit like this, right? This is Sukhasana, or easy seated pose in yoga. It doesn't have to be this. It could be legs stretched straight out in front of you. If you have any low back fun, let's just call it that, like if you're dealing with some things low back, you could come to lay down on the mat or the floor with your knees pointing up to the ceiling. If you opt for this option, you'll want to tuck your tailbone slightly, so you're pressing your low back, your sacrum, into the mat, so that you're comfortable. So just find a position that works for you. And know this, it's not like all or nothing. If you choose a position and you decide this is really not working for me, no needless suffering. You can change your position, all right? There's ways that we can enhance our meditation experience. I have some essential oils here near me, in case you're not like doing this from a yoga studio and you don't have essential oils nearby. You might light a candle, if you have incense, whatever you use to help yourself relax. But I'm going to give myself a couple drops of lavender in the palm of my hand. So if you have essential oil, I'd encourage that. Don't worry, don't leave screen to go get it. Don't, just imagine right now, I'm like blessing you all with some lavender essential oil. So just draw it in, okay? So find your comfortable seat or your comfortable laying down position. If you are sitting, you can go ahead and drape your wrists over your knees and allow your palms to face down. Even if you're laying down, turning the palms face down tends to ground the energy, and that's what we want for meditation. Palms turned face up, raise energy, and palms face down are grounding. So if you want to ground your energy, just turn your palms face down. Another option is to close your eyes, but only if that's comfortable for you. If you prefer to have your eyes open, just take your gaze to the tip of your nose. All right, so we're just trying to limit the distractions here. And then find your breath. We're breathing here in and out through the nose. Noticing perhaps anywhere you might be holding stress or tension subconsciously. It just kind of sneaks up on us. See if you can soften. Right? Are you clenching your jaw? Is your brow furrowed? Are your shoulders and ears attached? Right? If that's the case, just relax. Soften. That is the word right now to consider. Just soften. As Corinne mentioned earlier, yoga and meditation actually can help with a healthy brain because they require certain things of us. Just now we had a little bit of movement. Now we're moving into a place where we're focusing on the breath and maybe some guided visualization. And all these things are different brain activities and different ways to keep the brain healthy and engaged. So following the breath here, in and out through the nose. See if your next inhale, with your next inhale, see if you can take your breath all the way down into your belly. Breathe all the way in. You might feel the belly inflate all the way in. And then exhale, let the air completely go. Let's do that 3 more times. Deep belly breathing. Take a very deep breath in. All the way down into the belly. And exhale, release it completely. Doesn't that feel wonderful? Wonderful. Let's do it one more time. Very deep breath in. And release it. Now continue to breathe here. Maybe you stay with that deep belly breath, or maybe you let it go. but just making sure that air is coming in and out through the nose. If you're dealing with any stuffiness or you have a cold, it's fine to breathe in and out through the mouth. There is no needless suffering in our practice. And as you breathe here and you feel yourself settle, I offer you the image of a perfectly blue sky. Behind your closed eyelids, or maybe as you gaze at the tip of your nose, just see a perfectly blue sky, perfectly blue, unmarred, the most perfect blue sky you've ever seen. And as you're gazing up at this beautiful, wondrous blue sky, you feel the sun on your face, warming you, healing you. Just breathe. Seated under this blue sky and this beautiful, nurturing sun, breathe. And with every breath you take, see if you can intentionally let go of something that doesn't serve you. Maybe a thought, maybe a memory, any achiness in the body. Anything that doesn't serve you, just choose now with intention to release it. And as you release the emotions, the energy, the thoughts that don't serve you, that don't align with your highest good, begin to replace them with thoughts or energy that do align with highest good. Maybe you release some anger, and in its place, you put peace. Maybe you release some fear, and in its place, you put love. Maybe you release some doubt, and in its place, you put courage. I invite you now to sit quietly, yes, quietly, with your chosen energy and or emotion, the one that aligns with your highest good. Sit with it and let it permeate your being from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet. Let it be so. Let's take a very deep breath in. And as we exhale, we'll bow chin to chest, blinking the eyes open, slowly lifting our head to take in the rest of our space. Yes, keep whatever good energy you brought into yourself. Keep that and move with it as you flow through the rest of this day. Namaste.
Wow, I feel great. Thank you so much, Courtney. Oh wow, that is awesome. I'm curious if anyone has anything they'd like to share with Courtney, or any questions. Courtney, I'll start with where are you located so I can see you and do this in person?
All right, Waldorf, Maryland. And for anybody that lives in Columbia, Jackie, we call this Wakanda South. If you just pack a snack, you'll be fine.
Right.
Southern Maryland, we'd love to have you come and join us. We do offer classes virtually as well. So if making that journey, isn't all the way appealing, there's that option.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Wow, I feel great. And I hope all you do as well. We have a lot of people leaving comments in the chat for you. this is great. So I'm just reading them as we go, but thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and move toward our closing. We have our partners from Annapolis, Joanne, who will share a summary of what we covered today. Joanne.
Thank you. I'm Joanne Scipio from the Annapolis Alumni Chapter. I'm a Diamond Life member and co-chair of the Physical and Mental Health Committee. November is recognized as National Alzheimer's Awareness Month. And during this month, we encourage people to become aware of the signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's disease and take practical steps to reduce the risk of developing this disease by improving their diet, exercising, meditating, and getting quality sleep. If you haven't already done so, please check out the Johns Hopkins Alzheimer's Disease Research Center and the AARP Global Council of Brain Health website for resources about Alzheimer's disease. A link to this hub will be shared in the chat. And all attendees will receive a virtual grab bag of information from the speakers. And just summarizing what was covered today, Alzheimer's disease and dementia are not normal parts of aging. Protecting your brain health is important. Reduce your risk for Alzheimer's disease by getting quality sleep, stress management, proper nutrition, and exercise. Okay. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and special thanks to our sponsor, Own Real Estate, and to our host, Columbia, Maryland, Annapolis Alumni, and Fort Washington Alumni chapters of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, the Can Dream Foundation, Johns Hopkins Alzheimer's Disease Research Committee, and the AARP Global Council of Brain Health, Live Now Fitness, and Sriracha Yoga Studio. We hope that you were inspired by what you heard today and that you will share this information because it will be repeated on Tuesday, November 9th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. So encourage your friends, relatives, social media contacts, just everybody you know. This was some really, really great information. Thank you.